Hello and welcome back to Chiefsman's Corner. This is going to be a recorded version. I was hoping to go live, and when I attempted to go live tonight, unfortunately my upload speed is crashing at about 1 megabit upload per second, which is ridiculous because I pay for 10 megabits per second and 250 downloads. So I'll be calling my ISP at some point this week and asking them what the hell's going on with it. But that doesn't matter. We're going to have a show. It will be recorded. I will be paying attention to the chat on while it's premiering. It'll premiere hopefully within the next hour or so. Sorry for the delay. I do apologize. Technical difficulties and all that. I'm going to try and get my ISP on the case and see what the heck's going on, because it's really kind of pissing me off at this point that I had good internet before and I don't now. But that's enough whining and whinging on my part. We are finally in Season 3 of WFL. With the season starting today, we will discuss mostly your questions for the show this week. After our housekeeping notes as usual, with this being week 1, there's no scores to go over, no real players to analyze stats for yet. Everyone at this point has hopes that their team can make the WFL playoffs and win the WFL Bowl. I am your host, one of the leadership team here, Coach Winuvas of the Seattle Seahawks. If you're watching this recorded version, thank you. We appreciate any and all support. Without good owners, the WFL doesn't exist. The first thing I talk about, as always, whenever I introduce any of these housekeeping notes, is the WFL's incentive plan. With us starting a brand new season, everyone has a clean slate to work with. If you didn't get tiered incentives last season, learn how to do so by using our custom command /incentive plan in Discord. That's all one word, /incentive plan, to get the document that details everything we do for incentives in WFL. Anything that improves the WFL's presence in the Madden community, as well as just being social in Discord chat now, is rewarded with incentive points that can get you perks that normal members don't get. There is now a video on our league YouTube page detailing the incentive plan if you would like more information on this. This is particularly for our newer members, but it's a good refresher for any of our members that are interested in getting tiered incentives. Again, /incentive plan in Discord. The second thing to talk about is our Ask the Chief forum, which was very active today, and I do appreciate that immensely. Use this form during the week, however, to submit any questions you have for me, and I'll answer them during the show, giving you credit for the question. It's an easy way to build up incentive points and provide extra content for the podcast. Use the command /askthechief to pull up the form in Discord. That is all one word, /askthechief, and that pulls up the form in Discord for you to send in your questions for the podcast. We currently have 5 openings in our league, and I once again would like to ask for everyone's aid in attempting to fill these openings. With the dreaded draft revert glitch potentially fixed, I'm hoping that we can possibly get these openings filled quickly, but I also understand that some folks have already walked away from Madden 23 due to the frustrations with the game. I'll do what I can. Please do what you can to help as well. To those that have done so and got us some recruiters or recruitments, I do appreciate it greatly, and hopefully you can do so again this season, because it will mean incentive points at the end of the season. Be sure you're up to date on the rules. WFL has had some rules changes this offseason, nothing major, but we did create a video of them on the YouTube channel. You can search for video links using custom commands, either WFL YouTube or playlist, that's a slash in front of both, /WFL YouTube or /playlist, all one word with WFL YouTube. You can get on our YouTube channel and check out all the videos there, including the latest rules video I did this afternoon as of recording of this podcast. With housekeeping out of the way, let's jump right to our closing segment, which is Ask the Chief. Thanks to all the questions that came in today once again. They are very much appreciated. Let me get them pulled up here in the old chat. Let's get them up here. Whoops, that's not right. That's my script. You guys know I have a script now. You probably knew that already, but, hey, whatever. So, boom. All right, so we had a bunch of questions from our Texans owner, Blackhawk. And we start with the first question, which is, if we had betting odds in this league, who would be the top 5 favorites for Super Bowl champs and season MVP for the upcoming season? Well, that's a little tough to go right off the cuff with not a whole lot of doing homework. So I did some homework on the off-season moves and things of that nature, and I came up with 5 teams that I think personally would be favorites. In no particular order, I'm going to go with Colts because they were in the AFC, or they were in the Super Bowl last year. The Texans because they nearly made the playoffs and didn't quite make the run they were hoping to, and they just got better this offseason. The New York Giants because Clyde's a monster. The Packers because Meek Boy is angry because he lost in the playoffs, and the Jets because they acquired Lamar Jackson and were inches away from making the Super Bowl or the WFL Bowl this past season. For players for MVP, it's way too early to be predicting this kind of stuff, but I will do my best. Try and throw some guys in there that, first off, the reigning, defending, undisputed MVP of Season 2, Dameon Pierce from the Houston Texans, is one. I would say Lamar Jackson for the Jets is another. I would say third would be Derrick Henry of the Titans with a new owner, new season. I'm hoping that Derrick Henry can get on track. Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts because Season 1's MVP from Madden 22 is angry and probably wants to get some. And a dark horse, mainly because of the team change and Rimster being there, I'm going to go with Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos as a fifth dark horse candidate for season MVP. So that's a way too early prediction for season MVP here in WFL season number 3. And as I come back to the questions, which division winner, and I read this wrong when I first typed it out, which division winner from last season is most likely to go from first to worst, excluding current CPU teams? I read it as worst to first, so I had a different list of teams, and then 30 minutes before I started the show, I read it, and I was like, oh, it's first to worst. And by the way, these two teams that I'm going to say are in no way, shape, or form any sort of shout-out or any sort of dig at the owners that are there. But based upon what happened to them during the offseason, I'm going to say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, excuse me, in the NFC, mainly because you lose Tom Brady. That's a huge chunk to lose, and yeah, he did regress, and now he's playing in Washington with the Commanders. But I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to take a downfall simply because you go from Tom Brady, I sort of mixed up the names there, to Kyle Trask at quarterback, and that's a severe downgrade. I know that Kendra is really good on the sticks. He's a really good user. He'll probably rely a lot more on the run game now this season, so I could see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers becoming a very run-focused offense. But I think with the improvements for the Carolina Panthers, with the improvements of the Atlanta Falcons in particular, and then the Saints kind of getting a season under their feet with a cap regime hit from hell, they finally got through. I think that NFC South is going to be a lot better than it was season 2, and I think the Buccaneers are going to definitely trend downward. I don't know if they're going to go to worst, but I definitely don't think they're going to be first for darn sure in that tough NFC South. And in the AFC, again, no knock on the owner, but I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs, and the main reason is improvements as far as ownership in the AFC West. Not to knock the Kansas City Chiefs owner Bansheeman, but it got a lot tougher with Rimster. Rimster goes from the Minnesota Vikings to the Denver Broncos, and instantly that team becomes, honestly, a threat in the AFC just because he is amazing at the passing game. You can kind of look at the stats as far as the Vikings were concerned. Last year he made Kirk Cousins an MVP candidate. He made Kirk Cousins an All-Pro. He made Justin Jefferson the beast of the league with only 14 games played. He missed a couple games due to injury. Rimster can sling the ball around, and with Russell Wilson in a prime Russell Wilson, not necessarily the Russell Wilson that we're seeing in the real NFL today at this point, I think Rimster is going to make a lot of noise and going to push Kansas City down a peg. I also think that even though I love Polio to death, I think him leaving and going to the Vikings, his hometown team, and Amazing Forever jumping onto the Chargers, I think that'll be maybe not an improvement, but at the very least it's going to be a tough opponent for the Kansas City Chiefs for the 2 games they play. And then I always love Steve there in Oakland with the Raiders. He's going to be a little bit tougher, I think, this year with some speed out there on the outside. He got an Al Davis type of pick, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he got a 99 speed wide receiver in the draft. So, yeah, there is that. He basically got Henry Ruggs' replacement. Hopefully he's a little bit better off the field than Henry Ruggs. But those are my 2 teams that I predict to not necessarily go from first to worst. I don't like doing first to worst, especially with users. But I think first to not first would definitely be something I would see there, especially with Tampa Bay. I think Tom Brady, I think that's going to hurt a lot whenever he goes to pass the ball, I think. Next question, also from the Texans, I do believe. No, this one's from the Titans. Thank you, Austin Jackson, for this question. Which rookie or rookies do you think will have the most immediate impact? Well, I put down 2. I put down one of my rookies only because it's real easy to be better than what was there, which was non-existent. And I'm going to go with my first draft pick, which is outside linebacker Paul Hutchins. He is now a genuine pass rusher. He instantly becomes our best pass rusher on the team. And the Seahawks didn't have a whole lot of good pass rushers. He instantly becomes their best pass rusher, and I do think he will be much more of a force going forward for the Seahawks on defense. The Seahawks definitely made a lot of improvements via the draft as far as we have a ton of outside linebackers that are attempting to get after the passer. Some of them are better than others. Hutchins is one of the better ones. He was a very good overall at the spot I picked him in, spot 25. Not necessarily, he'll have the most immediate impact just because he will be starting and he will be our best pass rusher in Seattle. Hopefully he can do better than our sack leader from last year, which was Uchenna Nwosu, who had 8.5 sacks last year. And then for the AFC side, I did pick a guy just because he looks like he's a generational talent. Halfback Zach James picked 4th overall by the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens have a huge amount of talent at running back right now. They have their worst ranked rusher by overall is Kenyon Drake at 79 overall. So that should give you an idea where they're headed there. They also have J.K. Dobbins. I know he's trying to trade J.K. Dobbins. I don't blame him because he's got Zach James, who looks like he will be a beast if Fan can get that run game going. And I feel like he will be able to do so with a new quarterback, with a new running back, with a ton of draft picks that look like most of them did pretty well as far as hits go. I really think that can make a difference, and that's going to kind of answer a question that was made later on. So back to the question board once again, we go back to the Texans, who was heavy on the questions today. Team that never mind. I'm reading. Let's see. We're organizing them wrong. My bad. So Oh no, he asked it twice. Okay, that's what I was confused about. Anyway, let me go back to the question here. So we are at question 6. Which team? Yeah, I did that already. I answered that already. Oh, okay. Which one has the chance to go from worst first? That's where the confusion lies. I didn't put down both his questions. Okay, well, that makes sense. I think I had this answer already, unfortunately, and I didn't save it. I deleted it because I saw the first to worst question. I thought I had read the question wrong. You turned in 2 questions. My bad. I definitely have an answer, though, for worst to first. That's Atlanta Falcons. They did a phenomenal amount of work this offseason. I think Studley's a great player. I think he's got that team gear the way he wants it now. He's had a year to kind of rebuild, retool, and get that Falcons team where he wants it to be. In that tough NFC South, I think he's going to be a player along with the Panthers to upend the Bucs, and I think he could potentially be the division winner there in the NFC South when all is said and done. He's got Kyle Pitts. He's got Drake London. He adds a year of Ritter skill to his belt. He built up the defense this offseason a good bit, it looks like. I think the Atlanta Falcons are poised for a run in the NFC South and the NFC as a whole. So I'd say the Falcons are the best shot. I had an AFC team, and I know who the AFC team is. Duh, Denver Broncos, mainly because Rimster's there. That's huge. I mean, he is an excellent passer of the football. He can win he can win shootouts. He can win low-scoring games. He did it all in Minnesota last year with a team that I don't think has as much talent in certain areas as the Broncos do. He doesn't have the receivers he did in Minnesota, but I think he's got enough receiver help with Russell Wilson and some of our rules relaxation around running the ball a little bit with the quarterback. I think he'll be okay, and I think he will be a force in the AFC West, and I predict him winning that division right out the gate week 1. Unfortunately, no knock to anybody in that division, but Rimster's a really, really good player on the sticks, man. So that was my worst to first, guys. You did send 2 questions in Blackhawk. I'm sorry about that. I read one and then I thought I misread it, so I just made 1 question. Next one, who do you think made the biggest splashes, moves in free agency and trades this offseason? Well, you'll be happy to hear this one, Blackhawk. Texans. You pick up Khalil Mack and you pick up Daron Payne. Along with a team that finished 10-6 or 10-7, 10-6, 11-6, basically good enough to make the divisional round or the wild card round and lose in the wild card round. I mean, you add Khalil Mack, you basically add defensive line and Montez Sweat. I even forgot about Montez Sweat. You basically added an entire pass rush specialists, you basically rebuilt your entire defensive line via trade on the off season. And so, I mean, that Texans front is now, it was a weakness probably last year. It is now a strength by a huge margin. Khalil Mack can still get after the quarterback. Deron Payne can push the pocket in the middle and the interior, and then you have Montez Sweat coming on the other side. Who do you double? If you double Mack, you got to single up Sweat. If you double up Sweat, you got to single up Khalil Mack. Neither proposition is pleasant to me. So definitely the Texans definitely helped themselves, and they were already, a 10, 11 win team last year. So the sky's the limit for the Texans. That division looks like it's going to be rough down to the wire. And then on the other side, I would say for another team, I should say, it's not necessarily AFC or NFC on this one. I'm going to go with the Jets because the Jets made the divisional playoff round, lost to the Colts if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe that was the championship game. But either way, the Jets lost in the playoffs. They made the playoffs, and kind of similar to the Texans, they made a splash trade. And they traded away Zach Wilson to get Lamar Jackson. And that combined with our rule relaxation around mobile quarterbacks, Kobe's already dangerous and a good user as it is. Him getting a supreme talent in Lamar Jackson at the quarterback position who can outrun anybody just about on the field and throw most quarterbacks out of the field, that's going to be ridiculous. And if Kobe can figure out how to utilize Lamar Jackson properly, obviously with my limited skills I couldn't, he will be more of a force than he already is. And if he figures it out, I could easily see him getting 13, 14 wins and being a number 1, number 2 seed in the AFC when all is said and done. But that's not a knock against the Texans because Texans will be right there too. So it's going to be tough. It's really going to be tough. That's why the Jets are kind of one of my predictors, dark horse candidate to kind of make the bowl game. I was going to pick the Broncos, but I was like, no, the Jets adding Lamar Jackson and Kobe with his skill set. I mean, that could be dangerous. So that kind of answers that question, hopefully. As we go back in, which team helped themselves the most in the draft? I actually got this question twice, so I'm kind of going to cover it twice over. I got it down here with Maniac with who you think had the best overall draft. So I'm kind of going to combine these two questions together a little bit by answering it. And I'm going to say the Ravens. You had 3 picks in the top 16. Obviously, that helps. But you essentially land what you think is a franchise-level quarterback. You couldn't get your hands on the top pick because the Lions, obviously as the CPU, got the top quarterback. Matthew Ryan, I think was his name or something. It wasn't Matt Ryan. But either way, they get the top quarterback in the draft. You pick up the second best quarterback as you view it in Brad George. You pick up at 4, you pick up a generational halfback in Zach James, which is probably a surprise to you. And then you grab a solid offensive tackle, your right tackle at the back end in the end of round 1. So basically, you've essentially rebuilt 3 sections of your offense immediately. I think that's a really good draft. I didn't really study a whole lot of drafts, to be honest with you. So this is kind of probably a question that basically I looked around a little bit until I found one I thought I liked. But I'm going to go with the Ravens to make that as far as the best draft there. Let me go back in and we'll go with what move surprised you the most in the off season. That one is also easy and also involves the person who asked the question, the Texans. You pick up Khalil Mack and Deron Payne via one single trade. You basically overhaul 2/4 of your front 4, and then you go pick up Montez Sweat from the Commanders. So basically 3/4 of your defensive line is vastly improved by 2 trades, and you really didn't give up a ton to get those. You really gave up some draft capital, and you gave up some other stuff as my cat joins the fray here. You didn't give up much as far as draft capital. You didn't give up much as far as players, but you get 3 impact players on the defensive front immediately, and you have the cap space to re-sign Sweat. You have the cap space to re-sign Payne. Will it put you in a hurt? Probably. You may not re-sign them both. I don't know what your plans are, but 3/4 of your defensive front are now near elite level talent. So it's hard to say that isn't a huge impact, and that's not the most impactful trade in the offseason or trades in the offseason. The most impactful trade is going to be one of those two, and I would say it's the Khalil Mack, Deron Payne for picks and players to the Chargers. The Chargers were in cap hell, and the Texans utilized that to the best of their abilities by weaponizing their cap space and kind of not necessarily taking advantage of the Chargers, but I mean you took advantage of a bad situation by offering players in cap space and cap freedom to the Chargers, and that's what they needed, so they took it. So I can't blame you for it, but at the same time, that's a hell of a trade, and that's a hell of an upgrade for a Texans front that desperately needed it. They definitely got it, and like I said, you're already improving a 11-win team with a front three of them for your front four that are just ridiculously going to be talented and get after the quarterback. That's going to be rough for the AFC South and for the entire league, honestly. And we have Maniac with a couple of questions. Obviously, I asked who do you think had the best overall draft already. Any predictions on offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year? I'm not going to lie. Week 1, it is terribly hard. Like, I honestly don't know who all the rookies are and who got what. Mainly because we didn't have a draft, so I didn't really see these names pop up and come through and see who got what and all that stuff like normal. It was a simulated draft, so my normal level of knowledge is even less than what it usually is. So for right now, I'm going to be honest and say predicting the offensive and defensive rookie of the years for AFC and NFC is going to be damn near impossible. But I will say my money, if I had to put money on it, and I could put money on it, anybody who I would consider an elite user in this league or a good user in this league, I would put money on their rookies making the cut. Got teams like the Texans, the Colts, the Giants, the Eagles, the Broncos now with Rim, Packers with Meek Boy, the Bucks with Kendro. I mean, even though I kind of knocked on him a little bit for not having the quarterback, I mean, the dude has skill. He clearly has skill, so he knows what he's doing. And I know I'm going to leave some good owners off of this quick list I'm going through. So if I don't name you, it's not a knock. It's just I'm doing this off the cuff. But any of those types of users, their players, their rookies, I would bet on them to win offensive and defensive rookie of the year. It's kind of a cop-out a little bit and really a generalized statement. But in week 1 and not knowing the rookies as well as I probably should, I can't really answer that question very well at all. So that's my answer. And then finally, the last question from Maniac in the part 3 stuff. One thing you wish you had or could do to improve the WFL? Wow, that is a deep question and an interesting question. I'll leave it up there. It's that bottom one there on the end of the tag there. What would I do? I mean, the easy answers excuse me, would be, a better game, a working game, a game that didn't have glitches so we didn't have to simulate a draft, a game that, but I can't fix the game. I have to deal with what I have. I really don't have a whole lot of personal complaints about the league. I think the biggest thing would be, I'd like to see more guys, and this is not to say that guys don't, but I'd like to see more guys embody the WFL motto. It's not about the W or the L, it's about the WFL. I sometimes feel, and I get it, we get competitive. That's why we play in these leagues. Guys are competitive. Guys want to win. Guys hate losing. I completely understand that. But at the end of the day, this is a video game. This is not something that's life or death. This is not something that's going to affect me or my family or my cats. This is not going to be something that affects your kids, your grandkids, your significant others. It's a video game. At the end of the day, it's a video game. If we can remember that and remember why we're here as a group, I think that would be the thing I would love to see out of WFL the most. Yes, we're around a video game. Yes, or I should say we're around a football game, a competitive game. Yes, we want to win. Yes, we don't like losing. But at the end of the day, I think sometimes we forget that there are people behind these controllers. There are people behind these usernames and behind these. We forget the human element, I think, sometimes whenever we have discussions, myself included sometimes. I try real hard to remember the human element with things, but even I sometimes can just lose track of that and forget those things. I think having more of a bent around the WFL, not necessarily being about just the football, just the Madden, but just being around guys that, have issues, have problems, have, this is an escape for a lot of us. It really is. I think treating each other with a modicum of respect and understanding and trying to have some empathy for each other, even when it's really tough to do so, I think that's what I'd want to see out of WFL moving forward. It's very idealistic and hotty-toddy and holy moly, but I don't have really a big complaint about gameplay. I don't have a big complaint about the group of people we have for the most part. I just think that sometimes we forget that there are human beings with feelings, with, mindsets behind these user game tags, behind these controllers, behind the DMs, behind the chat. And I would like to see us remember that a little bit more moving forward, and treat each other as if we were talking to each other face to face. So I think that's the big thing. I think that's something I would love to see. Not that I don't see that, but I think we all could do a little better about making sure we remember that there's a person on the other side of that username, and make sure we treat them with respect, that the respect they deserve as a human being, as a fellow human being. I'll put it that way. I think that's what I would like to see. And that is the last question I had. So that's a good way to end on a downer, right? So I'm going to go into the outro real quick. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. The WFL appreciates it. And we hope you were entertained by the show, even though the downer at the end there. I hope it's not a downer, though. I really do hope that we kind of, hopefully especially in the Thanksgiving season and the holiday season coming up, I really hope we kind of learn to try and understand and respect each other a little bit more than we might now, even if it feels like it's impossible to do. I hope that somebody gets something out of this little bit here, and hopefully feels a little better about WFL and about everybody in it going forward. But back to the outro. So nobody wants to hear that stuff, right? We hope you. I hope that you're entertained by this. We hope you're entertained by this podcast, as always. Let us know by throwing us a like, a subscribe, leaving comments, anything, any feedback, good or bad, is always appreciated, guys. Until next Monday, and hopefully maybe finally get back to a live segment. The corner's closed.